Thanks for staying with us. Well, some people have been scrambling to apply for visas to continue living in South Africa ahead of the expiry of the Zimbabwe Exemption Permits in December. The Home Affairs Department records show that there are a total of 178,412 Zimbabwean nationals who were granted exemptions. For more on the story, we're joined by Home Affairs Minister Dr. Motsoaledi. Minister, the issue of these permits has become a hot political potato. But from the position of the department as things stand, any likelihood of there being a decision to allow those who have been in the country under the permits to continue their stay?
I've said it many times. We are following the laws of the country. The Zimbabwean Exemption Permit has always been a temporary document. It was never meant to be forever. And we have outlined exactly what needs to be done in terms of the immigration laws and the refugee laws of the country.
For people who are going to be affected by the expiry of this permit and are looking for ways to stay in the country, what are the options that are available for them, the legal options that are available?
Kathy, let's understand that we have got many nationalities staying in South Africa. Many, from all the countries around the world. And their stay in the country is regularized through the Immigration Act of 2002 and the Refugee Act of 1998 and the Citizenship Act of 1995. All we are saying is everybody who wants to stay in South Africa must regularize themselves in terms of that. In terms of permits, there are 17 different types of permits that allow people to stay in South Africa. And any one of those can be used for one to regularize their stay in the country.
When it comes to these application processes, you can imagine those that have been on these permits are worried that their applications may not be given fair consideration, as some see the move as a way of the country getting rid of some of the Zimbabweans that are within our borders.
Kathy, today in Parliament, we presented a report of a task team which I appointed last year on the issues of permits, not about Zimbabwean exemption permit, but general permits which exist in the country. And they were able to prove that an extraordinary number of permits went to the Zimbabweans. When it comes, for instance, to the critical skills visa, of all the critical skills visas we have issued, 38% went to Zimbabwean nationals. When it comes to study visa, of all the visas we have issued to anybody in the whole world, 25% went to Zimbabwean nationals. Of all the general work visas that were issued, 15% went to Zimbabwean nationals. And of all the relative visas that were issued, 14%. So we don't understand that logic because our statistics proves otherwise. And we don't understand why, when we process those, why were we not unfair? And we suddenly become unfair when it comes to exemption permits. There are many other Zimbabweans who are here on those permits that I've just mentioned and the statistics. And that's not an exemption permit. So why, when it comes to exemption permit, will we suddenly behave differently?
Of course, there's been some harsh words exchanged between yourself and some of the NGOs that are fighting against the policy around the ZEP and the cancellation of these permits. What's really driving, you think, the way that this conversation has been taking place in the public space?
We never cancelled any permit. We didn't cancel them. We just said when they expire, we are no longer going to renew them, as they were renewed 3 times in the past. So that's all we're doing. When they were given the last time in 2017, everybody knew that they were going to expire in 2022, 2021 in December. Nobody raised the question at that time, why are they going to expire? Everybody took them on the condition, with that condition, that come the 31st of December, they expire. So when they expire, we are not renewing them. Why should they be wrong? It's like somebody's moving the goalpost. You sign a contract with somebody and it has got terms. When you now apply those terms, you say, no. Now, why are you applying the terms of this contract?
Of course, a part of the image that has also been created is of a South African government that is very unsympathetic to the conditions of many Zimbabweans and the kind of life that they will be faced with back home.
Well, you are correct when you say it's an image created. It's a created image, it's not a real one. Kathy, I have just given you statistics about how Zimbabweans are beneficiaries of most of the permits that are issued to all nationals in the world. So you are right, it's a created image and it's created deliberately. A created image is not a real image. It's something that somebody created for whatever motives.
Let's talk about what happens now that this process is expected to be challenged in court as well.
Well, we are going to defend it vigorously.
And what happens in the interim? Are you going to continue with your plans while you defend it, or will those be put on hold?
No, we're putting nothing on hold. I've already appointed a team of very highly experienced experts who are going to be processing this. So we are not putting anything on hold. We are going to defend our position vigorously.
What about the concern that many of those who have been in this country under this permit are simply just going to stay on and not return and therefore could well be in the country illegally?
Well, there is a process of dealing with people who are illegal in the country. That process is also regulated by the Immigration Act and the Refugee Act, and anybody who is illegal will be dealt with according to that.
We know that the proliferation of undocumented migrants in this country is a big one. Even though we can't put an exact figure to it, it's a lot more difficult to handle for the department, I imagine.
Well, we have put up a mechanism with the help of United Nations. You are aware that it's true that we have agreed that we've got a serious backlog when it comes to asylum seekers. And that big backlog which has been building from 2008, the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugee has given us 143 million rand to deal with that backlog over the next 4 years. With that money, we have hired 36 special lawyers to specifically deal with that issue, and they are dealing with it.
So what does that mean? Are you saying that we're going to see a more efficient processing of those that are in the country without the necessary documents?
Kathy, when you stay inside South Africa without necessary documents, it's not because we are refusing to give you documents. This is another picture which, unfortunately, has been successfully developed, that people are having no documents because we're refusing them with documents. Let me explain to you how the asylum system works. In terms of the Refugee Act 1998, the United Nations Convention of 1951, and the United Nations Protocol of 1967. This is how it works. When you arrive at the borders, you say you are coming into the country to seek for asylum. You are immediately given a Section 23 permit. That in itself is documentation, because nobody can arrest you when you have got a Section 23 permit. You are compelled to be given that once you announce yourself. And it says, we are giving you 5 days to arrive at the nearest refugee reception center, where you announce yourself. When you arrive there, whether you are given refugee status or not, but the fact that you have announced yourself, you immediately get a Section 22 permit. That's an asylum seeker's permit. That also is documentation, which says you are here for a period of 3 to 6 months while you are applying for asylum. If you get successful with asylum, you are given a Section 24 permit. It means you are under international protection. If you fail, you then appeal to the Refugee Appeals Authority of South Africa, which is a statutory body. If you fail there, you can then go to an open court. All those are processes that are open to human beings and individuals, and we are simply going to follow them.
All right.
So people who don't want any one of those documents, it means they never announce themselves. Even if tomorrow you take 1,000 people who are documented, they go to one of the 5 refugee reception centers and they say, I want to apply for asylum. They'll be given a Section 22 permit. That is documentation. Whether we are going to give them asylum or not, we are compelled to give them that document. So people who are here illegally, who have got no document, is because they don't want to be known.
All right. Home Affairs Minister Dr. Motsoaledi, we're going to leave it there for tonight.